Hey kids, welcome back to some more science. Science is cool. We are still talking about nocturnal critters. There are just so many of them, and this one is super cool. We're heading back into mammals again. We did take a break and go do a bug, which was pretty cool, I think, and a bird, which was pretty cool. This one is a mammal again, meaning it's got fur, the babies are born alive, and the babies drink milk from their mother. A mammal. This critter is also a rodent. If you remember our friend the beaver was a rodent too. A rodent being a mammal whose teeth, those kind of yellowy, they always look yellow too, keep growing. And if they don't grind them together and grind them down, they just keep growing. They gnaw on things to get those teeth down. Those are rodents. Now, the beaver was the largest rodent in North America, where the United States is. It's not the largest rodent in the world. The largest rodent is the capybara, which is in South America. This critter, this cool nocturnal critter, is not the first largest rodent, that's the capybara. It's not the second largest rodent, that's the beaver, but it is the third largest rodent. And like the beaver, it is also a local animal. This is a critter you can see in Minnesota. It is the porcupine. Porcupines are so cool. Now, when most people think of porcupines, they know about those quills. They think they can shoot those quills. Well, today we're going to talk about some true facts about porcupines, including those crazy quills. You're going to learn cool porcupine facts. You're going to watch some cool porcupine information videos, including a really cute video about baby porcupines. Of course, there's a silly song, and there's an art project. So, lots to do. Let's get started. Science is cool. All right, let's start learning about this critter before you watch some movies. The porcupine is a pretty big rodent, unlike a little mouse. Obviously, if it's the third largest rodent, it's going to be big. I mean, we know how big the beaver was. It was about that big. The porcupine is also very big. Most of porcupines are brown or black fur, and it's got some very long fur. Those are not the quills. The quills are underneath the fur. So just the fur is pretty long, and that's to make the porcupine kind of look big and scary. Porcupines are super slow movers. They kind of just amble along the forest. They are awake mostly at night, and they sleep a lot during the day, especially in trees. That's how they're safe. They have tiny eyes, they have tiny ears, and by the way, their eyes are not very good at seeing stuff, which is fine, I guess, if you're nocturnal. And they mostly just amble along on the ground with their little claws and their little teeth and their little eyes, looking for things to eat. They mostly eat twigs and bark and berries. They don't eat meat. And that's their life. So the porcupine has got a superpower, a way to keep it safe from predators. And this is the most well-known thing about the porcupine is those quills. The quills are underneath the fur, and they're just kind of hiding under there, mostly in the back and butt area. They're hiding under that fur. So, along comes Mr. Cougar trying to eat Mr. Porcupine. The first thing that porcupine does is start to fluff that fur up and look real scary. Then it starts to stomp its feet a little bit and kind of try to look scary. Now, if the cougar is not listening, still trying to eat our porcupine will start swinging his little tail around, trying to smack that cougar in the face. While it's doing that, it's got that fur up showing those quills. So the cougar comes to eat the porcupine turns its rear end towards the cougar's face. If the cougar gets too close, those quills areas, they stink. So it gives off this super stink, and then if the cougar still doesn't listen, boom, it gets a face full of porcupine quills. Now, it is not true that porcupines can shoot their quills, but what it does is it tightens up a muscle and kind of gives a oof. So when the cougar is trying to take a chomp, it gets a face full of needles. And I can tell you, if I got a face full of needles, I would learn pretty quickly not to bother a porcupine. And that's true for most animals too. They have learned not to bother porcupines. And those quills do not hurt or kill the animal. Well, I take that back. Of course they hurt the animal, but they don't kill it. The animal will eventually get those little quills out, and chances are pretty good it will not bother a porcupine again. Okay, before we watch our video, one final note about porcupine families. Little baby porcupines are called porcupettes. Isn't that so cute? It is. However, porcupines do not live as a family as far as having two parents raise them. The porcupine is a pretty solitary animal. It doesn't like to live with other animals. So the boys and girl porcupines, the moms and dads do not live together. The moms raise the babies all by themselves. And once the babies are grown, they just leave. That's it. They don't see their mom again. They all go off to find their own little area in the woods to live. And that's how they live. I don't know why. Seems kind of lonely to me, but that's how porcupines like to live.
Hi, I'm Dr. Oakley, and I'm here with Snickers the porcupine. High five. We're at the Alaska Wildlife Conservation Center, and he's getting a few of his favorite treats. This is a North American porcupine. As you can see, they're covered in a nice soft fur, and if you look here, he's covered in about 30 to 50,000 quills. There's a lot of myths about porcupines. The number one is that they shoot their quills, and they are not able to do that. Certainly, they can bristle up and tighten up their muscles, and they can whip their tail around, and that's usually how they catch a dog, or they have a lot of predators in the wild. Besides tangling with dogs, they also love to go chew on the outside of the plywood of a cabin. A porcupine is actually a rodent. It's the second largest rodent in North America. The first largest would be a beaver. These guys are basically like prickly beavers. They're excellent climbers. They like to climb up trees and chew on the bark in the winter. He's got 2 big teeth in the front and 2 in the bottom, and then they have these nice big molars in the back that are for grinding down their teeth. They have teeny tiny ears, as you can see, teeny tiny eyes, and they're not very fast moving. Their hind feet have a pad almost like a bear track, and it looks like a little tiny bear track. Fist bump. You're a cool rodent, you know that? Teddy, one of our North American porcupines. Teddy, come here. Would you like some corn on the cob? Oh, what is that? Oh my goodness. You have it? Don't drop it. Here's Teddy and his corn on the cob. He loves corn. Teddy, can you share your corn with me? Can I have it? No. Can you have it? You won't share? Oh, really? Okay, you have your corn on the cob now. Oh, Mom.
I'm a porcupine. I'm a porcupine. Porcupine. You're a what? I'm a quill-bearing porcupine. Oh, a quill-bearing? I'm a tree-climbing porcupine. Oh, I see. I'm a quill-bearing, tree-climbing, corn-eating, solitary, cave-dwelling, tooth-clicking, warm-blooded, thorn-butt porcupine. Got it, you're a porcupine. I'm a long-toothed porcupine. I'm a nocturnal porcupine. I see, you are, huh? I'm a long-toothed, nocturnal, corn-eating, solitary, cave-dwelling, quill-bearing, tree-climbing, thorn-butt porcupine. So you're a porcupine. Got it, okay. I'm a porcupine. I'm a porcupine. I'm a porcupine.
Here's a cute little porcupine book about a porcupine named Fluffy. Enjoy. A Porcupine Named Fluffy by Helen Lester, illustrated by Lynn Munsinger. When Mr. and Mrs. Porcupine had their first child, they were delighted. Now he needed a name. Should they call him Spike? No, Spike was too common. Should they call him Lance? No, Lance sounded too fierce. Should they call him Needle Rooser? No, Needle Rooser was too long. Freckles, Pokey, Quillian. Then together they had an idea. Let's call him Fluffy. It's such a pretty name, Fluffy. But soon there came a time when Fluffy began to doubt that he was Fluffy. He first became suspicious when he backed into a door and stuck fast. That was not a very Fluffy thing to do. He was even more convinced when he accidentally slept on his back and poked holes in the mattress. A very unfluffy thing to do. When he tried to carry an umbrella, he knew the truth without a doubt. Fluffy definitely wasn't. So he decided to become fluffier. Clouds are fluffy, he thought. I'll be a cloud. But he couldn't stay up. I know, pillows are fluffy, he said. I'll be a pillow. But when his mother sat on him, she was not pleased. He tried soaking in a bubble bath for 45 minutes, but he did not become fluffy. He became soggy. He tried whipped cream. He put a little on each quill. It was not easy, and it took more than half a day. But this did not make Fluffy fluffy. They should have named me Gooey, he sighed. He ate a lot of fluffy marshmallows. He rolled in shaving cream and feathers. He even tried to become a bunny. But the truth remained, Fluffy wasn't. One afternoon, Fluffy set out for a walk, trying to think of ways to become fluffy. Before long, he met a very large rhinoceros. "Grr," said the rhinoceros, "I'm going to give you a rough time." Fluffy didn't know what a rough time was, but he didn't like the sound of it at all. "What's your name, small prickly thing?" asked the rhinoceros unkindly. "Fluffy," said Fluffy. The rhinoceros smiled. He giggled. Then he laughed out loud. He rolled on the ground, he jiggled, and he slapped his knees. He roared with laughter. "A porcupine named Fluffy!" howled the rhinoceros. Fluffy was embarrassed, but he tried to be polite. "And what is your name?" he inquired. "Ha! I can't say it," giggled the rhinoceros. "Hubert?" suggested Fluffy. "Ha! Ha! Ha! Oh, help, I just can't say it. I'm laughing so hard," said the rhinoceros. "Harold? Or maybe Herman?" asked Fluffy. "No," gasped the rhinoceros. "It's Hippo." Hippo. A rhinoceros named Hippo. Fluffy smiled. He giggled. Then he laughed out loud. He jiggled and slapped his knees. He howled with laughter. A rhinoceros named Hippo. A porcupine named Fluffy, a rhinoceros named Hippo. It was almost more than they could bear. Hippo and Fluffy rolled on the ground, giggling and laughing until tears came to their eyes. At last, they lay exhausted on the ground. From that time on, they were best of friends. And Fluffy didn't mind being Fluffy anymore, even though he wasn't. The end. Art project time! For this project, you're going to make your own little porcupette. Isn't he so cute? You're going to need to make some salt dough. If you're at school, your teacher will have already done this, or maybe you'll make it with your teacher. Either way, the recipe follows. Print it out, make it up, you'll be ready to go. So first you need to make your salt dough. We're going to take 4 cups of flour, and we're going to take 1 cup of salt, just regular old salt. We're going to mix those dry ingredients up. If you have a whisk, that would probably work better. And when that's all mixed up, you're going to add anywhere from 1 1/4 to 1 1/2 cups of water. So start slow and start mixing. You're making a dough that looks a little bit like Play-Doh. So you want to be able to mold it. You don't want it too dry, but you don't want it so sticky you can't do anything with it. So start with like 1 1/4 cups of water and add more as needed. Once you get most of the flour worked in, you can use your hands. Start mushing it together. It'll be sticky at first, but as you work the flour in, it's going to take on more of a dough feel, like a bread dough feel. Once you have the dough to a pretty good consistency, you need to knead it a little bit to get things moving. So now you're ready to make your little porcupette. Here are some things you're going to need. A pan to bake it in, a marker to draw the eyes and the nose, preferably a Sharpie or other permanent marker. You could also use beads, or you could paint it on. You're going to need some Q-tip, or not Q-tip, you could use Q-tips or you could use pipe cleaners. I've got a bunch of different colors, and they're cut to about half my finger length. And you're going to need some salt dough. Now this salt dough made from the recipe shown before makes a lot of dough. This is enough for a whole classroom. You're only going to need a little bit. Well, I guess it depends on how big you want your porcupette to be. I picked off a piece about the size of a ping pong ball to make my porcupette, and there it is. I'm going to roll it to get it nice and smooth. I'm going to shape it into sort of a teardrop shape because they kind of have a little tiny head and then a big fat rear end. I'm going to take a little bit more, or actually I'll just shape mine here because I probably shouldn't take any more. The other kids will need it. I'm going to make a little flat tail. You can make any shape you want, but most importantly, I need to start putting some quills in. Now, my eyeballs are going to be up here, so I might actually poke a little holes for my eyes so I know where they're going to be. And maybe I'll make a little tiny nose spot. So I don't want to put the quills right there. Everywhere else, I can put the fur in the quills. My quills are going to go in the back, and they're going to be pink. Remember, a lot of those quills are underneath the fur. So I'm going to poke some quills into my guy or my little girl. Boop, boop, boop. Doot, doot, doot. And then I'm going to put some other colors on top. Now mine's kind of brown and pink. You can make yours rainbow colors. These are just the colored pipe cleaners I had at my house. Make sure to push them in far enough so they don't fall out when you go to play with your porcupine later. And don't forget the tail. They have them on the tail too. And do be careful, pipe cleaners can be a little sharp on the end. There's my little porcupette. I'm going to put that in the oven and I'm going to bake it. And when it's done, I'll get to color on the eyes and the nose and it'll be ready to play with. Oh, he's so cute. Now that he's done baking, and I know he's done because he's a little bit brown on the bottom, and don't worry about the cracks, that happens with salt dough. I can color his little eyes on and his little nose. Just going to color in the little holes that I made. And there he is. Isn't he cute? Now, he smells good. He smells like bread because he's got some of the ingredients of bread. But you saw us make him. Salt and flour. Not yummy. Don't eat him. And if his little quills pop out, don't worry. Just put him back in. Here's my little porcupette. Isn't he so cute? Well, that's all I have on porcupines. They are super cool nocturnal animals. Porcupines are cool. And so is science. Science is cool.